All right, then let's try to get into.
I have a fairly straightforward question, fortunately, or at least one that wouldn't require a lot of discussion from me. I'm an intern at the Heritage Foundation, and particularly I'm working in education. My question is, a number of the panelists, both on this panel and the previous ones, have mentioned that by the time that kids get into school, there's already a big achievement gap there, and there's already a gap by, some people said, age 3. One of the solutions that has been put forward for this, or the ideas for a solution, is universal preschool. And I'm wondering, given the comments of the panelists as well on sometimes the unintended consequences of well-intentioned ideas and academic ideas coming down, and as opposed to, as some of the panelists have mentioned, ideas coming from the bottom up, but things that actually work in the practical world, what the panelists, some of these panelists, think about universal preschool and using that to close the gap.
Yes, sir.
First of all, any educational program that's given to everybody, if it works, is going to help everybody's achievement. So that's one argument for Head Start type programs as preschool, as opposed to universal pre-K, because like No Child Left Behind, that's had an effect on achievement, but it's affected everybody, and it's had virtually no impact at all on the achievement gap. The second thing is there is a big study out now, long-term, the most rigorous evaluation of Head Start, which is the most popular, one of the most popular preschool programs. And this, it's disappointing, but although Head Start has an impact on cognitive skills, they fade after the first year in school. That's disappointing to many, but there are some of us that believe, because of this, the early influences of the family, to the extent that you're going to have successful intervention before school, it has to start very early, as in the Abecedarian project, where children went to intense child care centers, educational centers, starting at birth. I know that may sound extreme to many of you, and it may not be practical in many ways, but if you don't start really early, it may not have an effect. 3 years old is probably too late, which is when most of the preschool programs start.
Well, we have to go to the next one.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear the panel and the uplifting stories, the success stories, and I hope maybe afterwards to be able to hear from the person from the Young People's Project that Dr. Moses mentioned that we didn't have a chance to hear about. But I wanted comments on self-esteem and the relationship to self-esteem and performance. What I picked up from what Dr. Moses mentioned, and also Robert Woodson, has to do with the kind of intervention where a young person or a child thinks that they can achieve something and then to be able to move forward with it. I did an interview with 2 domestic workers who in Los Angeles are Latina, who were live-in, and they earn less than $3 an hour, and they work sometimes from 7 in the morning until 2 or 3 in the morning. Now, they leave their families to go to take care of other people's families. So when we're talking about the responsibility then of the families to read to that child and to care for that child, she's taking very good care of somebody else's children, but isn't able to do the same for her child. So when it comes to then the algebra project and the gang intervention and all of those complex issues that would then lead a child to really act out and hurt in a kind of a post-traumatic stress syndrome, what do you think about the relationship between self-esteem and being able to succeed and knowing that you can learn algebra, which I wish that I had learned. I'm terrible at math.
Well, first of all, I believe that a lot of people rely on advocates for young people when young people really need witnesses. They need someone who is a living embodiment of what it is that they are confronting. A lot of these young people can learn and be inspired more by someone who says, I've come from that environment. I know what it's like. I've been through what you have been through. The other thing, to answer your question, the second part of it, is inner city moms who love their kids come up with all kinds of creative ways to compensate for their absence. Sometimes they rely upon a surrogate youth advisor, or, I'm sorry, someone else in that environment. There is a network. These women, in some of them we have 3 or 4 of them go out to work so that the 5th one watches the other's children, and they share their income so that the child feels that they are part of a family. And so there are all kinds of creative ways that people have of coping, but we spend so much time trying to be deliverers of people rather than providing them with the means to deliver themselves from their circumstance.
I wonder, Javier, if you would talk about your own struggle with self-esteem.
All right.
Struggle with self-esteem?
If you did.
Actually, yeah, I had a big problem with mathematics, honestly, in high school. My name is Javier Mason, and I'm from Chicago. So Heather McDonald isn't here anymore, but right there with all the violence, the youth violence that's happening in Chicago right now. But my problem was that my math education wasn't there in school. I don't know if maybe I slept through 1st grade through fractions or something, but it just wasn't there for me. There was something that didn't click. And as I got into high school, my junior year, I took my last math course and was encouraged not to take a 4th year of math because I didn't do well enough my junior year of school, which really hurt me in terms of wanting to move forward. So at that time, I joined in with the program called the Young People's Project that just started in Chicago, actually my junior year of high school. And from there was encouraged to actually learn not just mathematics, but how to teach mathematics, how to facilitate mathematics, how to become a youth leader, how to become someone who is reflective, does critical thinking. And currently I'm the director of the program now, after 7.5, 8 years. That we are beginning to have this discussion around quality education and what does it mean to actually have a quality education that we're trying to pose to the entire country and to the nation to really take a look at this and not saying, I'm sorry, you know, about just like what the academics think that we need for education, but what is it that the students are saying that they need for their education and how can we better serve them and how can they help us to understand that? Thank you.
Thank you all.
We're going to have a 10-minute break now, and we're a tiny bit behind, so if you could come right back and we'll go to our last panel. Thanks.